through like card counters and people who've been accused of some crimes. But the question that we wanted to address with this, especially with pre-crime thought detectors, is when you walk in public, are your thoughts something that need to be protected in the future when we do have these technologies that are claiming, hey, you have malintent thoughts, we're going to pull you aside and interview you?
So if my thoughts can be made public and can be used against me, what if my thoughts are conspiring against me? We're in a situation where we're depending on technological devices to make determinations about what we're thinking, which have immediate, usually negative side effects for us. And we know there's never been poorly written software. And there's never been people who've had the ability to exploit situations. And my computer's making binding decisions and even contracts on my behalf, and the government never changes their mind about what's good and bad. So where does that really leave us? We've chosen sometimes to externalize thoughts, memories, and to-do items. So this is the basis of cognition. Sometimes we involuntarily externalize those things. Sometimes they're read at a distance. I can take care of the first case. I can just abdicate from the internet. I'll go hide somewhere and be a Luddite. I can't really take care of the second case if I'm actually ill. I need to accept the fact that without the medical device, I'm probably going to die. And in the third case, the law is just not there yet. So I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a security dude.
And I am a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. Sorry, it's a disclaimer that we always have to say in the United States.
You're probably going to be safer, but you're probably also going to end up being screwed in the end. Practical measures. Keep stuff in your house. It has a higher level of protection than anywhere else.
That you control. More so, make sure those warrants are proper and it's within the scope of what they're looking for.
If you have roommates, did you know that they can give permission to the authorities to execute that warrant?
For shared spaces, if you have a lock on your door, that is, unless your roommate is also sleeping in that room, that is something that would take an additional warrant to get into that. Your roommate couldn't open up your locked bedroom. But shared spaces, if the roommate says, sure, come on in, you don't have a warrant, I don't care, they will search your house.
Use encryption, but don't be foolish about it. One of the questions that we've had pop up was, well, I'm going to use the hidden operating system feature of TrueCrypt. And I will tell you, in all of the work that I've done doing forensic tear parts on computer systems, as soon as I see a piece of software, I assume you're using every single feature of it, and I will hunt it down. Store your data in places where it's difficult to subpoena. You might even go so far as to get your own satellite.
And I was very interested in talking to Ryan Lackey, for instance, about Haven Co., there's an offshore platform, for those of you who don't know, that's off the coast of the UK. Haven Co. doesn't exist anymore. They had some issues. But it was very interesting because they said they will never subpoenas, warrants, they wouldn't abide by any of that. They never had a test case. But it was interesting that as offshore platforms now are going to be costing about $2 million US. There's a company in California that's going to start producing them out of soda bottles, actually. That might be an interesting place. I predict one of the first things that's going to pop up on these offshore platforms are a lot of servers.
I'm letting Microsoft Outlook make contracts on my behalf. Has anybody read a Microsoft licensing agreement? I may or may not be making a mistake. Beware of the powers you give your cognitive agents. Resist the urge to be all Web 2.0. Work to maintain digital civil liberty and privacy legislation. That means look at those organizations that are working hard for you as members of the digital generation. Give them money.
And for instance, we are big fans of Electronic Frontier Foundation, that they are usually ahead of legislatures. And the legislatures in the U.S. at least, probably also in Europe, are about 10 years behind the tech.
The best advice is simply your mind and your memory are not necessarily your own. Sometimes you've volunteered to give that up without even realizing that you've given it up. You've turned thoughts into data. Sometimes it's externalized for you, and you have a choice between ongoing good health, in most cases, and externalizing those thoughts and memories. And They're looking at it now. They're finding ways to pull your thoughts out from outside. There's Canadian research that's being done right now that I have to cop for because I'm Canadian. They're using infrared mapping of blood flow in your skull to determine which parts of your brain you're using. Your brain uses an awful lot of blood, and blood is warm, and we can figure out if you're thinking happy thoughts in the happy place or bad thoughts in the bad place. And in conclusion, really do your part, engage with the general public, help them to understand that this has already happened. This is not science fiction, this is not crazy tinfoil hat, this is going on today. Work with the legislature. Generally speaking, it's people who've won popularity contests, not people who are qualified to understand what's going to happen tomorrow. As hackers, you've usually been watching tomorrow. We all know the street finds its own uses for things. In this case, we are the street. Help them to understand.
And I think more so this community, more than any other I can think of, should be getting very politically active with legislation donating to EFF, because these laws, once they go into effect, they're very hard to overturn. Right now, there are people trying to overturn the DMCA in the U.S., and it is nearly impossible. So watch for an add-on for, like, save the troops, bring the troops home, because often there's some privacy or technology-related legislation such as this. And if you see, for instance, like I did on the Homeland Security Department's website, if they have pictures from the movie with Tom Cruise, Minority Report, and they're saying, hey, isn't it great? We can do this technology now with the fast cameras. Say something about it, because at least from when I watched my Minority Report, that didn't seem to me like a place we wanted to go. But Homeland Security says, yay, we can do it now.
And remember, science fiction comes true. Everybody thought in 1969 it'd be totally awesome to have a communicator and a tricorder. Some crazy Canadians figured that out. We've all got Blackberries now, don't we?
And watch where you are. You are being watched by cameras. If you're from the UK, you have an inordinate number of cameras. You're on camera about 12 times a day. These pictures were taken by the Google van for Street View. And the technology doesn't really blur out the faces very well, but if you're around a fast camera, think those nice thoughts.
If you're carrying an AK-47 through a parking lot in the I'm going to use it position, think happy thoughts.
Or you can go into a database forever with, there can only be one associated with your image and legal name.
Here's the important thing, though. This stuff is happening right now. This is a news story from last week. You will give up your crypto keys. Why? Because you will give up your crypto keys. Your information will go over your home internet connection. Now, we know that internet connections in Europe are awesome. I've heard that we're not actually using enough bandwidth here, but I don't know how to use more bandwidth because I'm from a broadband-starved country, and we don't know. We have no idea. But we also know that in the case of Canada, it's a regulated duopoly who's responsible for more than 90% of internet connections. And we know they never do bad things with our data, right? We always trust regulated monopolies and duopolies. And buy a satellite. They're only $8,000.
Maybe every hackerspace should launch one.
We have time for some Q&A.
Thank you. Okay, a question in the back row.
Can you come up and use the microphone so we can find out who you are? And
yeah, if people just want to come to the microphone, make a line, and they'll be glad to answer your questions.
especially we want to thank everybody who's helped us do this. A lot of this research has been impossible to find real answers to.
Very good talk. Very good talk. Thank you for being here.
Come closer.
Super crazy hypothetical time.
Yes.
I have an encrypted volume that I'm going to set up.
Yes.
And in the process where it says, now you type your passphrase,
yes.
I pick someone online who's like in my buddy list that I don't actually know. And I say, hey,